Hello, Ndewo, Sanu. What are all the Yoruba words? Are Baoni. And where are my African greetings? Where are my African greetings? Welcome, welcome, welcome. A very warm welcome to all our friends, viewers, stakeholders, fans of Africa Rise with Susan West. It is, of course, another beautiful Sunday. I have been on my feet since early morning. I am a little bit tired, but no way that I'm not going to come here to have this chat today. And of course, as you join this broadcast, do the needful, which is create watch parties, invite your friends, share this broadcast, and of course, send in your questions and comments as you may have them. And of course, our conversation today is centered around women, women, and girls. And so, welcome, early bird David Philip Barango Taria. Welcome, Ibote. That's how we say it in my language. We say Ibote, it means welcome. And so, of course, yes, as you join in, remember to send in your questions and comments. And if you haven't liked and subscribed or followed us on our channels, we now have a separate page on Facebook called Africa Rise TV. Please do like, follow us on Africa Rise TV as well. On YouTube, we are also Africa Rise TV. Please do subscribe. And when you do, press the bell button so that you are alerted when we do go live. You can also follow us on Instagram at Africa_rise.tv. And my sisters are waiting in the wings to join in quickly on the conversation for today. But before I do that, let me take a short commercial break. Glory, grace,
pleasure being on Africa Rise and the fact that you focus on African problems, African issues. And I would urge you to continue. And I hope that more and more people pay attention to the leaders that you bring to speak on Africa Rise, and that this will translate into some change for the better for our continent. Congratulations.
Thinking. Okay. This is your numero uno, and my name is Charlie Boy, the area father. You're the very one of Africa, and the president of all frustrated Nigerians. Keep it real with Susan West. Yes, these are the channel where they like to watch when I won't get sent. You know?
Africa Rise with Susan West.
Oh yes, welcome back. Glory, grace, Shane. And I was just going to holler you before we went on commercial break. Yes, thank you so very much. And of course, our conversation for today is about the rape axe device. Rape axe device that was, designed by a South African woman named Sonnet Ehlers. And you know what? Until I came across this, knowing about this, I didn't realize that there will be any man in the world, anywhere, that will consider creating a device that will protect women, because usually we've had cases of rape incidences, and because it is more prevalent with girls and women, most of the time it's the men who come up with the designs. And I was shocked to find out before now there have been a South African man, again, who tried to come up with he didn't try to come up with a device. He did come up with a device. His one was I thought the rape axe was crude, but when I read about the design of this gentleman, I realized that he's called Jaap Homan. He's also South African. He came up with this device. I'm just going to take a short read to just give a little background to all the people who have made a little bit of an effort to protect us women. So Jaap Homan, an early prototypical anti-rape female tampon, was invented in the late 2000s by Jaap Homan, a South African man, for the purpose of preventing rape. Homan's device was designed to resemble a tampon for ease of insertion and consisted of a hard cylindrical plastic core containing a tension spring blade primed to slice when pressed against by the tip of a penis. First of all, I'm going to warn you, we're going to be saying a lot of penis in this broadcast, so please do not be offended. it's the only word that we can use, to describe that particular um, tool or area of a man's body. Following activation, a portion of the tip of the penis would be removed, in effect, performing a minor penectomy. And I thought, oh my world, I can't believe a man can actually sit down and love women so much. Love women so much. I'm sure this man has an affinity towards his mother, his sisters, if he has children, of course, his daughters. And because a lot of men will not want to come up with something so crude. But of course, we're going to be talking about this rape axe designed by Sonnet Elas. Sonnet Elas, an anti-rape female condom using a different design, was invented by Sonnet Elas, a South African woman. Elas was motivated to create it while working as a blood technician with the South African Blood Transfusion Service, during which time she met many rape victims. Elas mentioned that she was inspired to create Rape X, later renamed to Rape Axe, when a patient who had been raped stated, "If only I had teeth down there," which, suggesting the myth of the vagina dentata. Initially called Rape X, the name was changed in 2006 upon discovering that Rape X is also an EU warning system against dangerous goods on the market. And he went on to say, the Rape Axe is a latex sheath embedded with shafts of sharp inward-facing barbs that would be worn by a woman in her vagina like a female condom. If an attacker were to attempt vaginal rape, his penis would enter the latex sheath and be snagged by the barbs, causing the attacker excruciating pain during withdrawal and giving the victim time to escape. The condom would remain attached to the attacker's body when he withdraws and could only be removed surgically, which could alert hospital staff and police. Like most condoms, Rape Axe also usually prevents pregnancy and the transmission of HIV and sexually transmitted infections. Oh, wow. As I'm reading it, there are some people who are thinking, oh, she's so excited, she's so happy. You can feel the excitement that I have as I'm reading and understanding how this thing works. Because I'm also like thinking, how does it work? Is it something that can cause harm to the woman, the person wearing it? But from what it says here, it's absolutely safe for the wearer, the female, and it's only dangerous for the intruder, the rapist. Rape Axe was unveiled on August 31st, 2005 in South Africa. There have been objections to Ella's invention, describing it as vengeful, horrible, and disgusting. And its planned sale in pharmacies has been opposed. Concerns were raised that use of the device could possibly enrage an attacker and further jeopardize the victim. Ella's responding saying that many women have been killed over time, as nobody can guarantee the outcome of any rape, and that the pain caused from Rape Axe will temporarily disable the attacker, giving the victim time to get away. Now, I'm just going to come off this and quickly bring my guest back on screen. Well, I haven't brought them on screen prior. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, beautiful sisters. Nkosazana Ndlovu. Mrs. Nkosazana Ndlovu is joining us from South Africa, and Mrs. Faith Edeme is joining us from Abuja, Nigeria. She is an astute journalist, and of course, two brilliant women. I'm waiting for the third one to join in from the United States of America. But in the meantime, we will just go on with the conversation for today. So welcome, everybody. Yes. What an interesting topic. I'm just we're not doing a Q&A session. We're just going to have a chat as women, because we are the ones that bear the brunt of, most rape. And it's been said that I'm wondering about why all the devices that have ever tried to be used to prevent rape has come out from South Africa. Then I realized that there is a lot of rape incidents in South Africa, and it is on record that South Africa has the highest statistically highest number of rape reported rape cases. I'm not sure if it's true, because from the way I see it, it's only because it's reported that it's known that South Africa has this amount of so quickly, I want us to just dive into this conversation and just bring it home. Lately, the South African Parliament have started discussing about the legalization or making it easy to access this device. From my understanding, it's been legal, but it's not been something that is accessible. I.e., you cannot just walk into a pharmacy and buy off the counter. So go ahead. Let me start with Nkosazana.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak once again, Susan. I think it's almost been a year now that I was last in the program. So thank you for the privilege to be back again on a very difficult topic, I must say. Difficult in the sense that, we've got to look at it from both angles. Yes, women are the victims here, and we have been for the longest time. With us as South African women probably bearing the brunt of living in a rape capital in the world, because we have the highest rape statistics globally in South Africa. So obviously for us, anything that would be that would be some form of a control measure or a deterrent, or even something that will actually assist or support us in what we're faced with, would obviously be welcomed, as a preventive measure to protect us as women going forward. But however, obviously looking at the other side of men, there's all the issues of human rights violations and etc. that needs to be considered. So obviously they'll probably have a look at it in that angle. But I honestly think that I've did my research regarding this device thoroughly today, and I realized that I think the intentions are quite noble. They're there to protect women from a woman who's been dealing with women who's been experiencing rape on a daily basis, and having seen the victims and the experiences, both physically, mentally, spiritually, psychologically, etc. Obviously, with time, I think she herself has obviously borne the brunt of the trauma that the victims that come to see her have experienced. So definitely, I think when she came up with this device, as like she said, one of her clients said to her, you know what, I felt when I was going to the experience, I was so traumatized that I felt like I wish I had teeth down there. And that actually, that saying on its own, just it goes to indicate just how vicious the whole situation is. And I think for her, having dealt with this and experienced the trauma, and also internalizing it herself, I think she had to come up with something over a long period of time, that she eventually came up with something that she knew that would be possibly be a breakthrough in terms of being a preventive measure to protect women and girls, both in South Africa and probably in the world as well. I mean, if it works with us, it's something that could possibly work throughout the world. So from us as women, I think it's something that's quite welcome. I would welcome it. I think it's something that was definitely needed in all our medical supplies, in hospitals, in clinics, in pharmacies, and generally in all shops. But I know from the angle of men, there's an element of, was there consultation possibly? What form of consultation was there? What sorts of injuries are there to men? But I mean, if you look at it as a sketch, like rape, as part of the gender-based violence that we are faced with as a country, really, if you look at it from that angle, you realize that women are more victimized than actually talking for the perpetrators. So most definitely, I think it will be challenged by men in the sense of the violation of their own rights to a certain extent, because we live in a highly constitutionalized democracy in our country. So there's that angle that you have to look at it as well. But I think on the side of women, for myself as a woman as well, with young children who are girls, and as a mother, and as a woman, as a wife, I think something that like all women, I totally welcome. But let's open up the debate tonight, and then let's see how the discussions unfold going forward. But definitely for our country, I think many women, I think there's still an opportunity to actually to open this up. And I think from what I read today, I realized that it has not been opened in the market just yet. I thought it was, but I think unfortunately it hasn't. I think that's why maybe it's not well known. But I think it's an opportunity now to start to speak of it and to see. I do foresee that it will be open it will be welcomed by women in the market, because I look at it and realize that it's not harmful to women. It's quite safe, like a tampon. So I think women would actually anything, they'll grab anything that will be there to protect them,
Right.
so to say.
Right.
So thank you. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So Faith, I want to, we're having a conversation. This is what is shocking to me when I was reading that article is the fact that there are people who think it's being vengeful. What is being vengeful for a woman protecting herself against being raped by a man? What kind of a mind perceives that as being vengeful? Like, I'm not going to let you have access to my body without my permission or my consent. And so whatever I do to protect myself, how can that be seen as being vengeful? Faith. Oh, I think there's a delay somewhere with Faith's connection. Faith, can you hear me? Oh,
All right, Susan, great to be with you. Great to be on the show, African Rise. Just to reiterate a few of the points that Nkosazana raised, I would say that the rape or the penis acts is long overdue. Is long overdue. Can you hear me?
mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I can hear you clearly. I would say that the rape or penis acts is long overdue. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And this is, as I would put it, an inappropriate tool, or an appropriate tool to curb an inappropriate act or behavior. Just like our speaker said earlier, did say quite a complex topic of discussion. It sure is a complex topic. This measure is indeed a welcome development, as it is anywhere in the world. It's only preventive, just like she said, but there are other factors that we would look into as we start off a debate.
Right. And what are those factors we should be looking into?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead and tell us what are the factors we should be concerned.
Can you hear me?
Or we should...
Susan.
Yes, I can. Yes, yes. What are the factors? What are the factors that we should consider? Well, right. The network, I'm not surprised. That's Nigeria, you know. Nkosazana, let's just take it. If you would understand where she's coming from, what are the factors that should be considered or should concern us as far as this device goes?
Well, I think from a medical point of view, on the side of men, like I said earlier, I think for women, it's something that we obviously would grab and welcome. And I don't think there will be any issues or challenges on the side of women because it's something that's there to protect us. So naturally, we would actually welcome it. But I think on the side of men, the factors I think she would mention, obviously she'll elaborate on it further, but it would be issues like the safety of men medically. To what extent does the device damage them as men medically, and what are the repercussions of that going forward in terms of possibly when they get persecuted? There's obviously the reputational damage to them in the long term, over and above the physical damage on their side. But I mean, if you're a perpetrator of a criminal act, why would there be sympathy towards yourself more than the victim that you aim to harm? When you're raping a woman, there's a lot of damages that get done to her internally, and over and above the psychological effect that is there permanently, basically, and the spiritual element and every element of violating her. So obviously, for on the side of men, as much as I understand the element of human rights and dignity, etc., but to what extent must the perpetrators be sympathized with, and over and above the ones who are being violated, which is the women that are actually being harmed through the act of rape? I thought maybe that's probably what angle she is, but I think Faith can elaborate further. I see Faith is back.
Yes, Faith, can you go ahead and elaborate on, or just make talk about the factors that you think are should be considered.
All right. I hope. Okay, areas that should be considered. Prior to this broadcast, we've had reminiscent to some of the issues that I raised. Some of the crucial aspects that we raise are areas of mental health, for instance, which is actually a very, very important focus of mine. I work with young widows. Areas of focus for me have been in areas of providing mental health support. I was interested in areas of mental health, maybe because there hadn't been appreciable measure of care in that regard over time. When we talk about sexuality, we talk about young women, and we talk about them being victims of crimes such as rape, for instance. In an attempt to evaluate in the course of my work how widows of various age adapt to sexuality, which is actually some of the areas that we're going to touch as we go on. But there is so much of the phrase that I did mention a lot of time that I talk about the cycle in the work description that I do. I talk a lot about psychosexuality. Now, when we talk about psychosexuality, we consider the mental, the emotional, and behavioral aspect of sexual development, or the emotional attitude concerning sexual activities, and how women are actually being presented. And I think as we move on, we're going to look at areas concerning consent, concerning when, for instance, the woman is being violated by her own husband. Now, will such a device come in useful? Is this actually special to cases or incidences where she's actually been ambushed by a total stranger? Or is it actually selective? Are we looking at areas where the woman is being molested by her own husband? So we're going to look into all of these that I actually prepared my mind for, because for me, this is also a steep learning curve. As much as I'm ready to debate this, I would also want to understand the dynamics of the devices, as it were.
You know what? Faith has raised a very salient point. Which is a lot of people don't understand that simply because a woman is in a marriage, that she still has the power or the right to refuse sexual intercourse. So I will be wondering that if this device is made, I'm getting a feedback from someone. If this device is made legal, then it should be something that has to be. Sorry, where's that noise coming from? Well, if the device is legalized, it should be something that no gray area should be left. Like, it should be something that the Parliament or the Congress, however, whichever, depending on the countries, will have to then say that it is legal or illegal for a wife to use this against the husband, or it is illegal for, because you cannot leave, because when she raised that point, it hit me, because there have been times where in marriages where women are not happy with their husbands, and we've seen on social media women thoroughly offended by their husband's inability to stay faithful into their relationship, and they've used knives and all sorts of things to cut off their penises and so on and so forth. So yes, these are concerns, because it cannot, I don't think, in my opinion, that it should be something that should be legal to be used in a marriage. I don't think so. Well, that's my own thoughts about it. But I want you, Nkosazana, to quickly give your thoughts on what we just talked about.
Sure. Thank you for that question, Susan. Quite an interesting one. I would say that in the first place, knowing that I'm not going to say laws or rules, but the standards or values in a marriage is that obviously a partner should be faithful to each other. So if partners are faithful to each other, and there's element of love and intimacy and embracing each other, and no element of overpowering the other, we wouldn't even get to a point where we actually have to even discuss this as an issue. But however, we live in a world that's the ideal. But the reality is that the situations that we find in our homes are not necessarily the same. So therefore, those elements crop in where you find that there are a couple rapes that take place. I know it sounds bizarre, but it does actually happen. It's not always strangers. In many cases, actually people that you know, including your own partner. So it becomes a little bit more delicate and challenging when it's with an intimate partner that is someone you live with, someone you love and trust, and you share a home and a bed with. So it becomes a little bit more intricate, and maybe a shock to our system as well as to how we expect such kind of a behavior to actually take place from those that we actually trust. But in my study of the law, and about 2 years ago, I studied intimate partner violence as part of gender-based violence, and I actually did a whole study on that, and I did a POE on that. And I discovered when I was doing my research that there's a lot of it that is out there, and many a times it's not reported, legally, at the police station, etc., because of the fact that it becomes such a shock to the system because it's not expected, and also because women tend to want to protect their partner, and the dignity of their relationship, etc. So they suffer in silence, and therefore they do not actually want to expose it as such, and so it remains hidden. It remains hidden, and it remains protected, if I can put it in that sense. But it's real, it is there, and I think it's something that needs to be explored as to when you come to such a situation, how do you deal with it? And in fact, it should be dealt with as it would be to a stranger, because the woman's being violated. It's just in this case, it's not a stranger or an intruder, etc., but it's someone that is actually close to them. So from a legal point of view, it should be treated exactly the same as how any rape would be treated. But you find that women, because we tend to, the emotional element that comes with it, and the scars, and the shot to the system, and not wanting to even admit maybe the denialism that it's, you can't even believe that someone that you love or trust, or that you're in a relationship with will actually violate you in that way. So there's that element of pulling back and not actually exposing this, and therefore doesn't get dealt with. It remains a problem that just sits there in society and doesn't get the attention it deserves. But I think this device would be applicable right across, including in a marriage. But obviously, it would be a bit tricky to say in a marriage, because you don't expect that situation to take place in a relationship that you are with a person you're intimate with. So I think it may be after probably the first instance when it does happen and it's a shock to your system, then a woman can probably consider going forward, to use it. But then it becomes a trust issue as well to say,
Yeah.
if as a married woman you're going to start to use such devices,
I mean, why
is it
stay in a
even worth
marriage?
it to be in
Why
that
stay in a
relationship?
marriage? That
Exactly.
why
Is it
stay in a
worth it to
marriage
be in
that
that?
will lead you to have
Thank you.
to wear such a
Such
thing?
things, yes. So is it worth it to be even? Do you still have a relationship? Is it even worth it to even call the relationship in the first place? If you have to start to protect yourself from using such devices, when you're in a relationship with someone that you're supposed to love and trust, and so that also opens up that debate that those toxic kind of relationships, are they worth it? Do you even stay? Do you even call it a marriage in the first place? So it's a whole lot of things that you need to explore, and there's an element of culture that comes in as well, where you find that
Yeah.
because of culture and our African culture as such, which at times can be very patriarchal and very oppressive to women, if I can put it that way. I know that sounds a bit strong to men,
All the time,
but it's
all
the
the
reality
time.
we are faced with, So that element of women being violated inside their marriages, and being silent and
Yeah.
suffer in silence inside, is something that is a scourge that we face as Africans. And it opens a whole lot of debate in terms of how do a society support women. What are the structures legally in our countries that allows women that are trapped in those kind of setups, where they're even experiencing physical violation of rape, over and above the emotional abuse and verbal abuse, etc., that women, and psychological abuse that women are faced up with. Do we have those mechanisms in our governments to protect women? I know now in our country, we are coming very strong on GBV because it's a scourge, And I'm quite happy to see that there is action that's being taken by the government at a very senior level, which are with our president, in fact, and that they're actually taking it up. But and the women are becoming more vocal. There's more NGOs and more NPOs that are opening up, that are actually, they're actually doing, vocalizing it, calling for action, etc. And the law, there's 3 laws that are before Parliament. I think they're probably in the process of being enacted into law to protect women on the scourge of gender-based violence. So we're quite lucky in that sense, but not every other country has progressed to that extent in terms of dealing with it or head on to protect women and girls now and in the future. So yeah, so those are the kind of debates,
Right.
but I'm happy that this is happening, because now it then begins to open the floor for that dialogue, and even
Right.
to the African Union itself, to say, if one country, if one African state is able to tackle this thing head on, it's the global scourge. Why can all the other African states take on the same stance and then begin to
Right.
address it through the different mechanisms? And
Right.
both, it's not a political issue. In any case, it's a societal issue. So it's something
Yes.
that affects people across all countries. So I'm happy it's happening, because it then opens up that room for
Right.
it to be taken seriously, and also to be addressed via the strong laws around it as well. Yeah. So thank you so much, Susan.
Yeah. So, Phil, I'm going to come to you to give your contribution. Like I said, it's not a Q&A session, so I'm not having any fantastic question to throw out there. But what I want to do is play a short clip of this device for everyone to have a full understanding of what the device is about. I'm going to come to you to give your contribution.
When it is assaulted, the Rapex device will automatically attach itself to the penis and cannot be removed.
There was a lady that came in and she was raped. And she said to me, if only I had teeth down there. If you work with rape victims and you see those lifeless eyes of theirs, their body is broken, their soul, their spirit, everything is broken. And it just can't carry on like this.
The Rapex device consists of an elastic sheath which contains razor-sharp barbs.
It's similar to a tampon. You insert it in your vajayjay, and it sits behind the labia. And the moment the perpetrator penetrates, there's no turnaround, because the first time he pulls back, it will attach, and then he will bring it out of the victim. And now, obviously, all attention is drawn to the perpetrator, and he is struggling to help himself and free himself. And that's why we buy time for the victim to get away.
As you can see, we would strongly recommend that this device is only removed by a qualified clinician.
It's part of our culture in this country. Men can rape women, and they've got to be satisfied. They've got to be happy with it. And I just said enough is enough. We cannot carry on the way we are. I've been into many of our townships, and then I talk to the men and I show them what will happen to them should they rape again. They're mortified. Then there's no rape for quite some time. And this is exactly what we want. I found a sponge in Soweto that was a thick sponge about this size with a blade that protrudes, that's inside embedded. So the moment somebody rapes her, she would actually slice the entire head in half. Can you imagine what that guy looks like? I've had one day that when the guy was busy raping her, she started urinating. She said that was off-putting for him immediately. But I mean, you're not always got a full bladder, have you, that you can protect yourself with. Most of the cases, they were molested as youngsters. And you ask why, what motivates you to do this? What is your motivation behind the entire thing? And then they tell you, you know what, I hate women. I can't stand women. And the more pain I can cause them, the happier I am. There was a big story going around about me that I'm a male hater. No, I love men. I think they're fantastic. But then I'm talking about real men. I'm not talking about thugs. For those men, I salute. But the rest, no. Rapex will get you. I normally say a medieval device for a medieval deed. Because we've been sitting for thousands of years with rape.
Oh, oh wow. Faith, you work with women back home in Nigeria. You work with women, widows, and back home in Nigeria, I have heard of people always blaming the victim. It's like re-victimizing a victim. When I read the article earlier on in my broadcast, I did mention that even though South Africa comes top in the statistics of the city or the country with the most rape, is because South Africa has the most rapes reported. In my home country in Nigeria, 9 out of 10 rape cases are not reported, because we will just hear women and girls talking, and oftentimes they're not talking when it just happened. They're telling you about when they were younger, when they were as teenagers or as very young children. These things happen to them, and they are told to shut up, sometimes even by family members who love them, simply because the family don't want the stigma, or they don't want to confront it, or it's too much of a shame, or they don't want the world to know that the girl has been violated. So you see, Faith, I want you to go ahead and give your contribution, please. You're muted. You're muted.
I'm sure you can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay. Now, the illustration, as I have seen, is a proactive tool. For proactive users. I'm very sorry to say this, but I have to say the way it is. The eventer must have gotten to a point where she said to herself, enough is enough. I have to provide some form of solution to this that seemed to be a menace. Because, like she said, rape has been with us. Rape as a culture, unacceptable or not, has been with us for ages. Now, I would make reference to South Africa, the South African spirit. I make reference to the South African spirit a lot. They are a people that are self-aware, and so are able to choose what is good for them from what is not. This is unacceptable by me, and this has to stop. And I see that in them as being resilient, as also being able to say that this is not good for us, and we'll fight and see that this stops. Now, Nigerians aren't all of that. Nigerians are not that kind of people. I discovered that there are barriers to self-expression. This is so when I started my work with young widows. I did talk, Susan, with you about the population of women that I work with. The young widows, I'm particular about young widows because they are at the peak of their sexuality before spousal loss occur. Now, I see a problem. Women are not as expressive as they should be. I reckon, as I went on my work, that if women have barriers to self-expression, that means that they would also have barriers to sexual expression. Our approach to sex has never been open. Not as open as you find it, Susan, in London. Neither is it open as Nkosazana finds it in South Africa. So our approach to sex has never been open, never been wide and free as it is in other climes. And that is a big problem. So in my part of the world, rape can occur, just as Susan said, rape can occur as easy and as free as one takes a breath, without any form of criminalization. Now, there is so much of the phrase, like I have used the word earlier, and we have statistics. As a broadcaster, sometimes you get so tired of these statistics and you wonder if they're just there. A lot of times when we see all of these statistics, you wonder what is really going on. 1 in 4 Nigerian girl or woman, including the aged, are sexually assaulted before the age of 18. And we're greeted with ugly tales these days of child rape from 0 to 12 years old, in a case which is said to have been called defiled. For a minor or for a child, it's not termed rape. The child is said to have been defiled. 32 rape convictions between 2019, from the statistic that I studied, to 2020. And that is according to a data from the Anti-Trafficking Agency. And then you wonder, why are we losing on the fight to persecute offenders? And this happens a lot of times with people who should actually be the ones responsible to enshrine the law. And then they just walk scot-free. Now, in the rank order identified from lack of reporting to mishandling of rape cases, one wonders why we are losing the fight. So it's something that I hope I could pick something from what Nkosazana could say, because I also want to draw a leaf from best practices. I want to know how it's being done in South Africa. So I'm sitting down here also coming with a mindset to learn, because it's a steep learning curve for me, working with the women that I work with, having to teach them issues and or take them on areas of sexuality, and reporting where an acquaintance rape happens, for instance. Usually the man who knows you is the man who rapes. The man comes to her and she says she's not even sure that she's been raped or not. She assumes that she's raped because she cannot tell the difference between coercion from consent. So I would like to see how this debate goes and then pick on as we go.
Right. You know, in Nkosazana, in my country, there was a time a lawmaker was heard threatening a fellow lawmaker that he was going to rape her. That's how easy, that's how normal it is for a man who thinks that even as a lawmaker, he can threaten a female lawmaker because she is termed or seen or perceived by him to be absolutely disrespectful.
Yep.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Sure, Susan, that's actually quite shocking. But I think it goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about having these strong institutions of legal institutions that are there in those countries. Unfortunately, not all countries in our continent are democratic. Some may be perceived or may say they are, but the reality on the ground is that legally they're not really operating in a democratic manner. So for as long as we don't have those legal structures in place, if I'm putting it that way, or institutions in place that are there to support women as the victims of gender-based violence and rape, it becomes a struggle, because you find that obviously the abuse of those in authority who are supposed to be protecting women, as the law-abiding citizens and people that should be upholding the law in the first instance, are the ones who themselves get to violate women in the first instance. So you find that for as long as there's no mechanisms in place that are there to protect women and to protect women even from political leaders and lawmakers and police and all the different structures that are there in government or in the state, women remain vulnerable, and then the sort of sketch doesn't end, it just continues unabated. So it goes back to how do we then support those kind of countries, maybe via the African Union, to strengthen those governance structures that are there to protect access to legal structures that are there to ensure that the people that are supposed to be implementing the law to protect women are actually doing that. So that's the biggest challenge. That's a governance challenge we're facing throughout Africa, unfortunately, and even us as well. We're not 100% obviously there. We only the noise is only starting to really to actually find itself in the right places now, and there's still a long way to go, but there is progress. But I mean, like I was saying earlier on, if we can, as one African state, can get to this point, any other country can. And I think it's something that probably needs to be addressed at a higher level, like the AU. I don't want to go into the politics of the AU and how it operates, but there must be some kind of a start to say this is a challenge that many countries are experiencing. The access to those legal mechanisms that should be there to actually protect women, even from the abuse of those in power who ought to protect them in the first place. So that's a challenge we are facing, and it can only be dealt with at a very high level, in terms of intervening in those countries, because for as long as that doesn't take place, women remain vulnerable, from not only from the perpetrators themselves, but even those in the state that are actually meant to actually to support them. So it's about strengthening the judicial systems that are there, in most of our African states, to ensure that women are getting the support and the protection that they deserve.
Yeah,
Through the constitutions that are actually there in those countries.
Yeah, once we're talking, I was thinking, apart from being worried about this device being misused by a wife, a legally married woman, I'm thinking, is there one person or a group of people in your mind that you think that should not be that should be protected against this device? Is there a group of people? Is there anyone you can come up with, or a group of people that you say, in this instance, it should not be legal, or it should be criminalized if it is used against this group of people?
Sure. I can't think of any. When I look at it, and I look at that video, I watched that video several times, and I don't know how, I can't imagine how anybody who would think that device is anti women. I know men can jump at it, obviously, because they may feel that it's harmful. But I mean, if you are aiming to harm someone else, like I was saying earlier, why don't you expect to be harmed back? Because it's the only way you can actually deter the behavior is to it's not to say revenge, to be revengeful or to revenge, but you need to have something a little bit aggressive to deter. Exactly. Otherwise, what's the point? So I don't foresee any group of people that would think it would actually work against them, because in my mind, only men can fight against it. But I mean, the men that don't abuse obviously will work on there to protect their women and their their wives, their girls, their girl children, etc., their sisters, etc. But only the perpetrators themselves would actually want to defend something like that. But because we've left vulnerable with no intervention, no support, no help for so long. I mean, thank goodness for this lady that she actually had to come up with something as a start to actually to help deter the behavior. So on my mind, I know that what she was saying I read something else what she was saying, a study that she did before she actually launched this in the market. She was saying that there's two alternatives: is to use a device, which is she's been called all sorts of names for using it. But anyway, then another debate is where it's more seen as structural, where you wait for the education in men and the behavioral change and all that. But while that is taking place, and you're waiting for that process to unfold, where men are becoming less aggressive, they're not rape. How long will it take? While that is while you are trying to change this, change the culture and the behavior of men, while women are experiencing rape on a daily basis. So you do need to have something like this. I know it may appear extreme, but how extreme is rape? I mean, rape is just as extreme. So you needed to have something just as not vicious, but just as strong to deter against a very violent crime like the sexual crime of rape. So I don't know. In my mind, I don't see why any sane person would actually want to oppose it. But anyway, I'm open to debate. Faith, maybe you'll have something to add.
You know what? Just before that, I just want to say, providing this device is one thing, but haven't listened to Faith talk about.
All right, now, okay.
Haven't listened to Faith talk about how some women get raped and cannot even tell if they were raped. How do you get to even these are the kind of women that actually need more the help, because these are women who are more than likely very poor, not educated, or ill educated, live in rural areas. Getting these people to welcoming this sort of device, because first of all, I have spoken with people in those kind of backgrounds, and when they are raped or abused sexually, they seem to think, they seem to feel of it as, he liked me, he said he liked me, he loves me, or this sort of mindset, psychological abuse, where you begin to feel like the rapist is doing you a favor because there's so many, 1,000, 1,000,000 other women outside, but he chose you. So how do you begin to educate these kinds of women all around Africa, on the continent of Africa, where they are, and getting them to accept this tool to protect themselves? Faith, especially you who work with these women. There's a delay. Can you hear me, Faith? Oh wow. Okay, really quickly, Faith, can you hear me?
Okay. All right. Sorry, the link. I'm losing intermittent breaks as we go, but I hope that I make use of the link as it gets stronger. Now, for the benefit of hindsight, yeah, it will be good that we understand circumstances to which one is said to have been raped by a man. Can you hear me? I can hear you clearly.
Uh-oh. The network is kicked her out. Nkosazana.
Oh, man.
Let's
Sorry
continue the
about that.
conversation after she's able to come back on.
No, it's fine. You were saying, Susan, can I just rephrase the question again, just to make sure that I got it right? Maybe I can try and get in there and answer for Faith.
Right. I was just thinking, providing the device is one thing. Getting the women to use it, especially women who are not well educated, or who are absolutely, cultural women, who think sometimes that it's when a man rapes them that he's doing them a favor, because there are 1,000,000 other women out there he could have, but then it's her, or it's this particular woman.
Sure. Okay, I see Faith is back. Let me try and have a bit of a grab there. I think I'll give Faith a chance also to obviously expand a bit more. But that's quite sad, as you're narrating that story to me, Susan. It's actually quite very sad. To think that women would actually feel that it's a privilege to be raped by a man out of many women. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm back.
Let me give you a chance. I'll answer later.
Go ahead, Faith. We're waiting for you, Faith. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. We did mention briefly issues of acquaintance rape. In the course of my work, I've had to expatiate. I've had to broaden the demography, as it were. That these women are usually some are usually educated, but yes, can you hear me? I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me? Should I go on? Can I go on?
Yes. Yes.
Now, a lot of them are actually educated. You'll be shocked to actually discover that it's not all women with limited education. It's just basic basically, I think it boils down to the orientation. What women have been taught as they start to bond and evolve as well. So it's not much to do with really who the woman is, if she's educated or not. I think it has a lot to do with the word that we've mentioned earlier, patriarchal system, in which the woman is actually placed under. She's almost without a voice. She's almost without a sense of self. So we look at acquaintance rape, whereby this acquaintance is someone that is known. The person does, the person forces the victim to have sexual intercourse, be it consensual or not. Now, the rapist can be a friend, the rapist can be a family member, the rapist can be a neighbor or even a co-worker. Now, I have to define all of these circumstances to which one can be called a rapist, because it might not just be a husband, for instance. It might actually be a boss. It might be a colleague. It might be a trusted friend. And this is the most common type of sexual assault. And all of these sexual assaults actually happen day in, day out, and this happens freely with women. Now, a sizable proportion of which are young widows. And I'm very particular about these women, because these are the population of women that I work with. Now, as we've observed marital rape, which occurs, these are some of the rape incidences that go largely underreported or unreported for a number of reasons, being that, for instance, there is the fear of reaction, and then there's stigmatization or shame and so on. Now, this demography gets comfortable or, to leave. They leave with coercion. They have been used. You and I are from the same background traditionally. A lot of times do we ask ourselves these questions? When you go and say, my husband actually wants to have sex with me or have sexual intercourse, and I am not at any point in time ready for that kind of interaction with my husband. And what we hear is actually so really hot. It's really so disturbing, because a lot of times what we hear, especially from the generation before ours, is, how did your mothers cope? Your mothers got used to being coerced. And I want to think that way might actually have been how our parents lived. And so that is what was handed down to us. That invariably became the rule of thumb for the girl who goes into her marital space and she is made to believe that, look, I am just not ready mentally or otherwise, but I have to have sex because my husband wants it. So the woman is educated in the right sense of it. But the orientation, by reason of tradition, has been so badly distorted. Before we move on to that, is very, very important of sexuality. And then again, the issue of consent, the issue of consent. So if we take this precept by precept, I think that is being put out for us as women to hold on to as a deterrent tool for that man who is a stranger or known to us, who wants to come in through coercion to have sex.
Well, it's unfortunate that your network just keeps breaking. So we're just going to round up. And, of course, Mazino Dixon, thank you. It says great conversation.
Hello.
Jonathan,
can you hear me?
Find out, yes. Where we're from. We're Nigerians and South Africans.
Hello, Susan. Absolutely. Have I made myself clear?
We are Africans. We are African women here. That's how we consider ourselves. So, in rounding up, in summarizing our conversation for today, is
okay. There's a delay in the sound.
In my opinion, there is not one single person. There is not one single person on this earth. There is not one single man that I find exonerated not or exonerated from this device. If you feel that you cannot seek the consent of a woman or a young lady and you force your way in, you cannot be exonerated from this device, however crude it might be. That's my own take on it. So Nkosazana, go ahead and just give a brief summarization of your thoughts. You're muted again.
Apologies for that. Thank you very much, Faith, for your input. It's someone who deals with this on all the time in your work, and I can pick up that the passion. I can pick up your experience. I can pick up your willingness to actually to want to drive the change. Thank you so much, Susan, for your input as well. On my side, I just want to say, to agree to you with you, Susan, is I do not see any woman really wanting to be exonerated from this. In fact, I was looking at this at the video that we broadcast now, which I looked at it earlier. I realized that for any woman, you never know when you actually experience this, and it's to me at some point in time, as the rape gets undealt with, this may become like one of those things where you switch on your alarm at home before you go to bed, or you or you activate your your beams, etc. I know that sounds probably absurd to say, but when rape culture doesn't get dealt with and it gets it becomes the statistics become higher and higher. Women have to find every single avenue to protect themselves, and so this device, it becomes like a condom, if I can put in those words, where for protection, you wear a female condom, and obviously you insist that a male wears one if you for sexual intercourse. But obviously, for in a situation of rape where you don't know when it can happen to you, you have no idea what day, what time, and it can happen in a social setting with people it can happen by your intimate partner, like I was explaining earlier. It can happen obviously when you are in a race situation, when you are traveling alone, either during the day or at night. So I actually have no idea when. So I foresee this becoming one of those things that women carry in their bags, almost daily, as some form of protection for themselves. In the event there's something they foresee in a situation, they can quickly put it on, insert it like put a tampon. So it's something that I honestly think that I think every woman would consider. As vile as it looks, as probably not as sexy as it looks, as probably not as crude as you're saying, as crude as it actually looks. But it's something that because the nature of the violence of rape, being crude, being cruel, being unexpected, etc. So the device is equally responding to that. So I honestly see it as one of those things that we'll carry in our bags as we do our tampons or pads, or any other protection device, as you do a spray, that spray that you spray on someone's face when they're trying to come for you. So it's one of those protection devices that I think would actually become globally accepted, that women carry in their bags because of the nature of the scourge, because of the high statistics, because of the the lack of quick intervention on the stats of GBV across Africa and across the world. With the office, obviously, when I mentioned something else that came to mind while I was thinking about this is obviously we have the issue of human trafficking as well, that is becoming highly prevalent, not only in our country and the continent, but globally as well. So with that increasing, being on a rise, with the fact that the whole world is in a global economic crisis, the crime rates become even higher, the risk of crime becomes even more prevalent. So with that, with that increasing, issues like human trafficking, obviously the violation of women through rape, etc., become more prolonged and more exacerbated and more of a high risk. So then, we equally have to come up with devices like this to counter that, to protect ourselves as women. So I foresee it as something that will be in the market, will be accepted with time, because of what we're faced with as a protection measure as women. And that's my take. But there's a lot. I mean, this is like this topic is, there's a lot to it. Just let's listen to the things that Faith was mentioning earlier about the situations of women in Africa and what they're experiencing, and people, and rape. There's no age, has no color, has no demographics, has no status. It can happen anywhere, anytime to any of us. So it's something that should be explored more. Yeah, thank you.
Like you mentioned, Nkosazana, you said rape has no demography, it has no race, no color. The truth is, it is true that rape has none of these things. But when I walk down the streets of London, I am not walking around with a consciousness that I'm going to be, someone is checking me out in such a good manner, or someone is going to come and tap me on my body without, my consent, or even probably someone I don't even know. You see, when rape does happen in countries like this, because there are rules, there are laws, and there are consequences, regardless of gender or who you are or the position that you occupy. Therefore, I walk around knowing very much that I can, at least, we cannot control everything, but I walk around with the notion that I'm going to go out, I'm going to come back safe. That is not the way I will walk around back home in Nigeria. You wear a certain kind of outfit. Men are allowed to speak about your body like they have rights to do so. They make they make commentaries at you. You literally can be standing and a man will come in, slap your butt or touch your body, and it's okay. It's a matter of you fighting physically, because there are no consequences. Or even if there are laws, they are not enforced to protect the girl child or a woman in Africa, in most African countries. Faith, I wanted you to quickly give us your final thoughts. Recently, I saw on television in Nigeria where they are now beginning to understand that times have changed. And so this is not the time to want to isolate young children and thinking they don't know very much. You don't want to expose them to certain things. At every level, there is a way you can communicate sexual issues or matters to a child for their own protection. So I saw on TV where the children are singing, if you touch my private part, I will tell. If you touch my private part, I will tell. Something like that. I was very happy. Yes, I was very happy because this is something that never happened when we were growing up, So children don't know that when this uncle or this man touches me like this, he's not supposed to touch me there. He's not allowed to do so. So now we're getting to that point where even primary school age children are beginning to, be, sex education, at least at their level. So, Faith, your final, just summarize your thoughts based on what we've been talking about today.
Oh, okay. All right, then, which is very, in my view, is pivotal to the reduction or prevention of sexual assaults or coercion, is the issue of sexuality, vis-a-vis the environment of the woman in which she finds herself. My experience, which is also quite challenging, having worked with a group of NGOs through the years, and as a broadcast journalist going on radio to actually talk about stories or issues that matter. That I think that I would say that I tried, or I did as much as I can, or I could, given the last almost 25 years that I worked with the media, is also the use of IEC materials. That's for information, education, and communication materials. You've just mentioned children being taught as the school's anthem, trying to create awareness where
What a shame. Frozen. It's a pity. It's a pity. Our network is messed up. I can understand just joining in from Abuja. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. Well, we want to round up today's conversation really quickly because we're over an hour already, and it's a shame our other guest couldn't join from the United States of America. Probably she's mixed up the time difference. So, well, what can I say? What can I say? We will play our part in making sure that we do not shy away from educating young children to understanding their sexuality and protecting themselves. Because the more we shy away from talking about these things because they're so young, the more we are making them vulnerable to a very wicked world out there. The world is such a terrible place right now, where you find even, things I don't even want to mention. So we are at that point. And of course, as crude and as shrewd as it may sound, this is a device that I will welcome wholeheartedly and encourage women that when it's available to them in their various countries or communities or localities, that they should embrace, because I haven't seen one single human being that should be exonerated if his plan is and his intention is to cause harm or forcefully take advantage of a woman's body. The damage that is done to a young lady or a woman who is raped is beyond, it's something that takes sometimes a lifetime to overcome. The trauma is beyond the physical. It is emotional. It is psychological. You find out that there are some women who are dysfunctional even in their marriages, simply because of the abuse they face as young women. So they're traumatized, and we don't understand what trauma is in Africa. In African culture, at least as far as I know, is like they want you to just shake it off and just move on and just walk on with your life. But it doesn't work that way. There are many people who are broken, many women who are destroyed, many people who walk around with scars, and they are dysfunctional because of these abuses that they have faced. So Lloyd Fury says, I'm here, Suzanne, as always, enjoying myself to the conversation you're having. Thank you. Welcome. And Faith is here. I want to see if we can quickly add that to stream and let her just quickly summarize, Faith, so that we can call it a day.
Okay, so for that woman, like we have done, more of what we call the tam-tam drum in communities, is that consent is voluntary. Consent is sober. Consent is enthusiastic. Consent is informed. Consent is mutual. Consent is honest and verbal in an active agreement and cannot be coerced. So I think that women have to, he isn't doing you a favor. And indeed, if the man must be intimate with you, he must actually, it has to be consensual. It has to be consensual. So all of this, I think we should hold quite strongly. I think that culture needs to be imbibed so that we will have less incidences of rape. And if you feel violated as a person, I think you have a right to report. And let's leave the law that has been redundant, talking about the Nigerian law. I think let's leave that for the public courts, or at least the legal system to handle, and hoping that someday we become as strong as the South African society or culture, where indeed people are held liable and criminalized. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. And I just want to add to that, saying no means no. No means no. Because this culture of saying that I was saying no, and then the guy will not stop, and he keeps on going until he has his way, and then they say, oh, it was consensual. No means no. And so we must begin to educate young ladies to understanding that no means no. And when they say no, the person shouldn't have access, should not be allowed. Whatever the person does further on is sexual assault and can be rape when there is penetration. So I am up for it. We're creating awareness for those people, for those boys and men who have been raised badly or who have a problem that we cannot help them. We want them to know that there is going to be consequences henceforth, which means it is not written on the foreheads of any woman walking on the streets that she's wearing a rape axe. Whatever happens to you, if you try to force yourself on a woman, it's your it's your problem, basically. And so thank you very much, ladies. Nkosazana, Ndlovu. Thank you, Faith, Edeme. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you for your time. It's been such a great conversation. And I do hope that in the future, as we get more information about the you know
This device.
the device and what the parliaments in the different countries are going to be doing about it, we're going to keep abreast and come back and continue this conversation. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. Thank you, Faith. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Right.
And thank you to your viewers as well. I see. I'm going to go into your Facebook page and just check, just to see the comments from the people. I couldn't see them tonight, but I always like to catch up and see what is
Right.
the thinking of the people who actually listen to the broadcast. So thank you so much for that. I will do the follow up. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
All right. All right. It's been a great conversation. And for me, it's about creating awareness. It's about educating us, whether any right thinking man, any right thinking brother will absolutely welcome this. But of course, as we go on, we're going to have these conversations and begin to find out where the gray areas are, where this device and how this device can be abused by some. We do some, when they say some mothers do have them, we do have some women who have no good intentions too. So we don't want women who don't have very good intentions to use this as a vengeful or a revengeful tool against our brothers, our sons, and the men out there. But the most of it is that if a woman says no, no means no. And with this device, women are going to be protected. So if to be forewarned is to be forearmed. If that thing has a mind of its own, take charge of it, because it's going to end you up in a place you don't want to be. And so today's broadcast has been about the Rape Axe device. And we do hope that we have been able to educate and inform you on today's program. And so I love you, and I will see you next weekend. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. It is Africa Rise TV. And when you do, press the bell button so that you are alerted when we do go live or broadcast any new material. If you like, as I would like, please like and follow our page, especially our new page, Africa Rise TV on Facebook. All right. And follow us on Instagram at Africa_rise.tv. Let's keep this family growing. I love you all, and I'll see you next weekend. My name is Susan West. Bye-bye.